It's become pretty normal for us all to set up a happy hour, set up a mommy go out night, set up any sort of socialization centered around the alcohol or the cocktails or the bar that we're going to meet in. I mean, really think about the last time that you set up a hangout just to socialize with your friends that wasn't built around having drinks or opening a bottle of bubbly on a Sunday, or really just looking at that alcohol as the key to get the conversation going. We're going to take a little bit of a deeper look at that today and really look at the ways that we maybe lean on it a little bit heavier than we should and how we can move through that to step back into who you truly want to be. So let's get started. Welcome to the Crazy Ex-Wives Club, a podcast dedicated to helping women navigate the emotional journey that is divorce. I'm your host, Erica, and if you're trying to figure out life after the big D, welcome to the club. Whether you're contemplating divorce or dealing with the aftermath or any of the many phases in between, the club has got you covered. Each week, you'll hear stories from women who have been in your shoes. This isn't about spilling tea on divorce details. This is about giving you the tools to take control of your own healing journey. Listen in weekly for advice, tips, and tools to help you move through each stage of the process. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Crazy Ex-Wives Club. I'm your host, Erica, and today I have Kristi Tanner with me. Kristi runs the Mocktail Mommy Instagram page. If you've seen it, she's quite the influencer over there, all about mocktails. And we are here today to talk about her own experience of transitioning through her divorce, which brought her about to this entirely new lifestyle that has freed up so many opportunities for her and really showed her just a better, healthier way to be. And I wanted to bring some awareness because I had my own struggles with this too during my divorce. So welcome, Kristi. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Erica, for having me. I'm so honored to be here, and I'm honored to be a crazy ex-wife.
Right. Welcome to the club. Here we are. This
Woo!
is like a badge of honor, you guys,
Love it.
like wear your crazy badge with pride because you
Thank
earned
you.
it. Divorce was hard. It sucked. It stirs up so many emotions. And those emotions get really hard to handle. And what do we do when emotions are too hard to handle? We avoid them. We run in other directions. We use substances and avoidance to not have to deal with them, to numb them out. And so when I found your account, Kristi, and I was looking through it and I was like, wait a second, we need to connect because this was a period in my divorce, drinking daily, not in excess, not like the stories we see in movies, but just enough to really confess that I had a hard time getting through that 5 p.m. till 10 p.m. when I went to bed without a cocktail in my hand because I
Absolutely.
was so overwhelmed and so hurting from my marriage that it was like, your hands are shaking at that point and you don't know what to do with yourself. So we're glad to have you in the club.
Yes, absolutely. I'm honored to be here. And, I never thought that being a sober, single, divorced mom of 4 kids under 10 was like, woo, yeah, that is what I am here to do. But you guys, it has, um, divorce and sobriety happened for me at the same time simultaneously. Um, it wasn't like, when would be a good time to get sober? It was like now or never, right?
Yeah.
Take your life back or don't. And I did. And but when I was struggling in my marriage, the first place I went to was I'll just have a glass or two or 10 of wine until it doesn't hurt so much or until that inside space would quiet down and I couldn't kind of hear my intuition gnawing at some truth that I couldn't figure out. And since I couldn't figure it out, and maybe I didn't want to figure it out, I knew something was wrong and I was scared to find out what it was. It was like, I can drink it away. I can
Yeah.
drink it away. And then in the morning, it won't be there in the morning and I'll have my day to go about. But the thing is, it was always there the next night.
Yeah. Well, and look at how even before divorce, right? Mommy sippy cups and
Oh,
all
yeah.
the little wine tumblers. Like how normal has it been? I love there's always the memes that's like, I loaded up my glass with my glass of wine in the stroller and went walking down the street. And they're like, no, that's illegal. That's day drinking in the street. Like you're not supposed to be doing this. But we've made it become socially acceptable because society, right? We're working full-time moms. Now we're having kids. We don't really get a break. We're stressed and overwhelmed. And so you're marrying a whole bunch of things up together. And why does it hurt? It's only one or two glasses, right? It starts with one or two glasses and it's not a big deal.
Yep. That's always how it starts. I think back to when I was having kids. I had my kids really close together. So, I had 4 kids under 5.5 and no twins. So, they were just one after the other. And one of the things that I found, when I became a mom and I left work was that I really lost a lot of my social connections. And the way that I knew how to get those back was to host a play date with mimosas. That
Yeah.
was super fun. That was fun for me. I love hosting. I love busying myself, making everything adorable, right? That is fun. Plus, I don't have to drive anywhere. I don't have to worry about how much I drink because I'm hosting. Nobody's going to be watching what I'm pouring. I'm going to have all these other moms kind of helping me raise my kids and having the day go by the moms entertain the moms and the kids entertain the kids, but, like, are we parenting
Yeah.
or are we trying not to parent, right? And it's like, there was a fine line there, and I'm not sure when it switched from I'm having a play date for my kids to play with another kid to I'm having a play date for myself to not be drinking alone.
Yeah. And I think mine, because I had that too. And mine was even a little bit later, we had the 2-year separation. I moved into a townhouse. So now I didn't have any social network. I didn't have any neighbors to talk to. I'm in a townhouse, people are not really talking to each other in a townhouse like they are when you're in a neighborhood. And my son had found a couple friends across the street, which was perfect. And so I just used to reach out to the one mom and be like, "You know what? I've got to walk him over because he was too little to cross the main road. I'm going to come hang out for a bit." And
Absolutely.
and we would just hang out and have a few cocktails and then pretty soon it was like, "Oh, this is the thing we were doing," because I just kinda wanted to avoid any work I had to do, I was tired from working all week. I didn't wanna do projects and clean the house and do whatever else, and I really did miss socializing with people. I really did wanna talk to somebody else, but it made the rest of the day so much harder. It
For
made the
sure.
parenting really hard. I didn't wanna go back and do the parenting again afterwards.
I think that was probably, like, the part I didn't look at for the longest was I always thought I was enjoying being out, being with
Yeah,
people, but I always knew that there was gonna be an end.
yeah,
It was kind of in the back the dread of, like, when will it come that they will say it's time to go? And then
yeah,
I will have to put 4 children to bed. I will have to get them home, get them taken care of, brush their teeth. Like, how much alcohol is that gonna take me to get through that
yeah.
part of the night alone without support after drinking? Like, I couldn't handle it. I
Yeah.
needed help.
This is where I feel like we have lost so much when the tribe that raises the kids has fallen apart.
Yes.
Because sometimes those afternoons where we were hanging out next door, she'd start making dinner and, if it was a soup or a chili or a whatever, it was big enough and she'd be like, "What's two more people? You guys just stay." And that was really the piece that
Yes.
that we're missing, that we're craving as single parents, even as regular parents, that you just want somebody else to help you divide
Yes.
and conquer the load of the bedtimes and the baths and the dinner. But to get to that, we have to
How we
use
get there.
an
Oh,
alcohol invite. Even
yes.
now, like, even now, if I reach out to friends I haven't seen in a while, I'm like, "Let's set up a happy hour." And we've
Mhm.
changed it to, like, I go to a coffee shop that has cocktails or coffee because 'cause I'm like,
Sure.
we don't have to drink every single time." Um, but it became the norm. It became an easy habit that everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, yes," because it's a splurge. It's a
Yeah.
thing I get to do for myself.
Yep. Yeah, it feels like a treat, and it's
Yeah.
like, okay, like, it's like, do I deserve, if I want to think about whether or not I deserve it, let me just count all the hats I wear as a single parent, right? And it's like the list is astronomical, right? But becoming like this woe is me martyr of like, this is my life and I don't want to carry it. The way to handle it is not to cry and drink.
Right?
Like I tried it, guys, doesn't work.
Yeah. And I think there's a thing too, there's a big stigma about like, "Oh, you don't drink, then you must have a problem with alcohol." So prior, divorce happens, I'm drinking. So let's talk a little bit about like when does a social experience become a problem? So mine was I started with one little cocktail, but that became two. So eventually I just moved up to a pint glass
Yeah.
of, because that's one drink. I only get to have one drink, and it was like vodka, soda water, and lemon. So
Mhm,
one drink for the night. Now I was still coherent. I was still putting my child to bed. This was not about being blackout drunk or about crying or falling over. It just was enough to take the edge off of. Well, by the time I moved through my healing, I really stopped drinking altogether because I was working out a ton, right? Now I'm tracking macros. Now I'm doing things. And then we jump ahead to right now, the last 2 years, dating a nice Irish gentleman who, as you can imagine, it's like whiskey for blood. I swear to God.
yes.
I, and so we're dating, and what is it? It's drinking Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights. Sundays we're drinking mimosas. And literally just this January again, I was like, I'm just gonna take a break. And
Mhm,
almost instantly, I realized that it had nothing to do about being able to say no. I could, but drinking all weekend made the rest of my week that much harder, which
mhm,
made me want to drink that much more the next weekend. And so it just was a thing of like, my body doesn't like it, that I have more energy and more clarity and more desire to go for a walk and go to the gym or cook a healthy dinner. And so one habit kind of, you know, domino effect, bad habit into another bad habit. But so how about for you? What were your signs that, hey, this has become a problem versus just something I'm doing, for fun?
yeah, looking back, I'm not sure I was ever a very normal drinker. I did not drink in high school. I tried it once. I blacked out at a party. My parents had to come get me. I was so embarrassed. I was like, I didn't do anything wrong in high school. And so I was like, I'm never drinking again. And I didn't, right? It was like, go to college. And then college, it was like, well, no parents are here. Girls gone wild. Like, I've got no one telling me what I can and can't do. And I did for the longest time that it was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And at 20, I could party 6 days a week and still go to class and still get straight A's. I don't know
Yeah.
why, but I could. So I did. Um, and, I felt like in college it was socially acceptable. Everyone else was doing it too. When I graduated, I moved to Chicago and I got a really awesome job that I had tons of responsibility. Um, and my drinking changed. It didn't stop, it didn't lower, but it changed. I changed from drinking like trashy drinks, like Natty Light out of a 40-ounce bottle to, like a 9-ounce glass of, Kendall Jackson Chardonnay at a happy hour with my coworkers. And I felt so sophisticated. So I thought for a little while my drinking was actually like a sign of my sophistication, my arrival into adulthood, into the workforce. I'm here. I know what I'm doing. I'm responsible. Um, when I fell in love with my husband, ex-husband, um, it was like I was 23. He took me to Napa Valley and I was like, "Oh my God, is this heaven on earth? We've arrived. This is wonderful." And it was. And honestly, our courtship, our marriage, our wedding table venues were all the wineries we've been to. Like wine was our love language kind of.
Yeah.
Um and it was for a long time, but then I had kids. And having kids really changed, um, probably the dynamic between my husband and my ex-husband and I a
Yeah.
ton, as well as, just like the awareness of the responsibility of having a job, a child, and a home, and like kind of the divisiveness, whatever that word is, of the all the responsibilities and how much was falling on which person. Um, and at some point, I decided, we decided that I needed to stay home. I got pregnant with my second son relatively quickly. And it was like, it's not going to work for both of us to be traveling with these crazy jobs. So you're going to probably need to stay home. And I was like, that makes sense. Yeah, I should probably stay home. But I'm so social. And
Yeah.
I didn't have a network of moms set up. All of a sudden, I was home with two kids under 18 months old and no one to talk to. And, making dinner with a glass of wine is only so fun for so long. Then we moved. He got another job. We had a third child. He was born with a cleft lip and palate. And when I got diagnosed with his diagnosis in utero, it changed the way I felt about myself as a person,
Mm.
as a mother, as a human being. I felt like I had done something wrong, and this child was not even here yet. I felt incredibly guilty for I don't know what, but for
Mm.
causing it somehow. Um, and I was terrified that I was not going to be able to raise this child the way that he deserved to be raised. And when he was born, I was so relieved that he's just like the most beautiful and this perfect baby. And was it challenging? Of course. Was it different? Yes. But could I do it? Yes. Yes, I could. But how I did it, how I chose to do it
Mm.
was alone. I I didn't I didn't feel safe saying, I don't know how to do this. I'm not sure if I'm doing it the right way. And so at nighttime when I was questioning, did I do it right? Did I do all the things right today with three boys under three and one with a cleft lip? And I'm attached to a pump and there's kids everywhere and there's laundry everywhere. It's like, I don't know if I've done enough and I don't know who to ask that to. And I'm terrified to like say, am I good enough? So I'm just going to drink away those feelings of like not enough.
Hello, my crazy podcast family. It's time to level up your connection and become a club member. If you've loved the content but are craving answers to your specific questions, if you're looking for a way to get help when you need it, if you're ready to move from just listening to creating change in your life, it's time you became an Instagram subscriber. You'll unlock exclusive private content that you won't find anywhere else. Subscribers get VIP treatment with direct Q&A sessions, weekly lives, and the ability to get support when you need it, all on a platform you're already on. No new signups, no new websites. Just head over to our Instagram page, click that subscribe button, and join the inner circle now. Subscribe today and keep the crazy fun going.
When I couldn't find someone to hold that space for me to like be sad and confused because I couldn't find someone to to hear my confusion. I just drank. I just blacked out and it wasn't intentional, but it was I started drinking earlier and earlier in the day. It was like, oh, okay, well, now it's 4 o'clock, all the kids are home, so like I can have a glass now.
Yeah.
Um, but it was like that that diagnosis and not doing anything about this postpartum depression, I just did not deal with any of my life circumstances that were going on around me and kind of was like, I'm going to power through it by drinking every night. And like the drinking is poison. It was poisoning me. It was making me unable to think clearly, to see clearly, to make the best decisions. But I didn't know. And it took another I went to rehab. That summer it got bad. I went to rehab. My husband was like, you can't come home here. And I was like, fine, I'll go to rehab. I went to rehab and they were kind of like, wait, you only drink champagne? Like, that's not addiction.
Yeah.
And they kind of laughed me out of rehab. So I was like, guys, I just want to let you know this is Kristi. I'm emailing you from rehab. It's all good. I'm just getting a great tan. I'll be 30 days sober. Like, I'm going to do the moderation thing when I get back. I got
Yeah.
all the info. I am ready to do this now. And I came back convinced that I was going to drink moderately because it's blown up in my face. I'm embarrassed. I had to do something about it. Everyone has seen that it's like been enough of a problem that I had to leave my home. And so I come back and I'm like, I'm going to do moderation. I mean, what?
Yeah. Well, and I think it's all because that's how it always happens, a little bit at a time, gradually, then suddenly. It starts with one drink, then it's two drinks. It starts at six, now it starts at four. It's these tiny, subtle shifts
Yep.
until all of a sudden you look back and you're like, wow, this has become a huge part of my day, right? Like I think about during COVID, it
Whole
became a
thing.
huge part of people's bills. I had some friends that were like, we're dropping $300 to $400 a week at the liquor store
Mhm.
because they just didn't want to deal with the reality that was currently happening. There was worries about their business. They now had three kids home with them. There was no relief of being able to socialize, and that was their outlet. And they just $300. And I'd be like, oh my God, okay. Thank God my body didn't really like alcohol that much. My body would always quit earlier than that. But I think that it's so easy to just little by little and even when I think about where I'm at now, so come January, I was irritated that I knew my inflammation was up, my cortisol was up. I had started working out again, but the scale wasn't changing. I had dropped eating a lot of stuff, but I still didn't feel good. My energy wasn't there, right? I just didn't feel like my old self. And
Mhm.
so I was about to have a little bit of dental surgery. And so you weren't supposed to drink for a few weeks after you had the surgery. And I was like, perfect. I'll take a few weeks off. And so took a few weeks off. Oh, scale starts changing because my inflammation is down. My cortisol is down. I was like, well, this is kind of fun. Let's keep going a couple more weeks. And I had figured, I'd go like 30 days and then we hit probably the next holiday, right? Or a big event.
Yep.
Because
Yep.
my thing was is I was like, I wasn't doing it because I forever wanted to give it up, but I knew that I was drinking more than I needed to. And
Sure.
I just needed a big enough reason to stop. Okay, so now here we are in March. So that worked, except all of a sudden, then the one day I decided to show back up and drink, now I had a horrible headache and I felt like crap for the next 2 days. And it became so apparent how alcohol made me feel in my body. And I'm still at that place where I'm figuring out what will my normal be because I don't like how I feel. I feel so much better without it. It's not something I need. But every once in a while, do I want to go toast something with my partner? I do. So I've been playing around with other alternatives and looking at different ways to go because I still want to have that special social aspect. I just have broken my own reliance on it
Mhm.
coming from an alcoholic drink.
I mean, that's kind of the perfect segue into what I do now.
Yeah, we need to talk about what you're doing now because one of the things that I loved when we first met was you had shared, your sobriety and your divorce happened at the same time. And so you had lost your accountability
All
people.
of it.
And
Yep.
that's what made you create your Instagram account. So
Yeah.
that's what brought you to Mocktail Mommy. And so you've really had this accountability, which I'll let you talk a little bit more about it because I think so often we use social media to hide what's really going on.
Mhm.
You guys are messaging me all the time. I can't tell you how many messages I get by somebody who's like, "Hey, I can't comment on your stuff because we haven't told people yet that we're getting divorced, but it's really helping me." And so we hide what's really happening.
Yep.
And I'm not like I don't like going online to talk trash about other people. So I'm not
Right.
advocating for that, but I am advocating for saying like things can be hard and you can find your people through it. So why don't you talk a little bit about that experience and then where it's led you to now? Because this really is your expertise now.
It lights me up to talk about mocktails and non-alcoholic life. Like, it can be awesome. In fact, I promise it is.
Mm.
Um, But I'm just so happy that, like, these conversations are happening, that the awareness factor is up, and that people are curious. Sober curious became a thing, I don't know, like 2 years ago, but when I got sober 5 years ago, like, that was not a thing. O'Doul's was the option at the bar, or, like, tap water in a Solo cup, and I'm like, "This
Yeah.
is BS." Like, I am fancy. I wanna be fancy for the rest of my life, even if I can't drink alcohol, because I can't. Um, but I want a fancy glass. I want a cute accoutrements in my drink. I want all the things. And I could not find that. So I'll rewind a little bit. So I ended up having one more child after I went to rehab the first time. I moved back home. We moved from Chicago to Madison. So the idea was I was going to come to Madison and be a brand new person, Erica.
Mm.
I was going to be Kristi who doesn't drink, or Kristi who drinks very moderately. That didn't work. Um, and I got pregnant and had my daughter. And the entire time I was pregnant, I knew that my marriage was over, and I was really unhappy, and I could not wait to drink.
Yeah.
I could not wait. And in fact, I drank a handful of times when I was pregnant with her, right? It was like, oh, I'm 6 months. I can have a glass of champagne. Like, I just like decided that it was fine. Um, and once I had her, I was elated to have a girl after 3 boys. OMG. Pink everything. But I literally had her, and 2 days later, I was at a Halloween party with 4 children under the age of 5, a 36-hour-old baby in one arm, and a full glass of champagne in the other arm. No husband to be seen on
Yeah.
Halloween. And people are looking at me like, I'm sorry, did you literally just pop out that baby 36 hours ago and you're like intoxicated at a party with the newborn? And I was. And I was just, I didn't even care. It
Mm.
was like I was at the point of like, I can't even pretend to hide it. I'd given up, right? Like, they think I have a drinking problem. Great. I do. What are we gonna do about it? I'm not sure, right? So, things got worse, right? They got worse. I tried medicine, that didn't work. I tried an online recovery support system, that didn't work. I tried intensive outpatient therapy, that didn't work. I tried part hospitalization, that didn't work. I tried AA, and I drank in the parking lot. I tried everything. And I wanted to stop. I hated myself when I couldn't stop. I was breaking promises to myself every day. I didn't trust myself. No one else trusted me. I didn't feel good about the mom that I was. And that was the most shameful feeling I've ever experienced, is to like feel like I'm letting them down and I can't even do anything about it.
Yeah.
The week of the 4th of July, I got 2 DUIs. um, in 2 different states. And I was pretty much on a mission to not be here anymore. And I'm incredibly grateful that that is not how it turned out. But I did go to jail. I was in jail in Gary, Indiana for 24 hours on the 5th floor. And that 24 hours like changed me as a person. Like, I saw people in so much pain, suffering from so much addiction, um, that could not get help. And I was like, oh my God, this is where I'm going to end up if I don't stop here or dead. And so it was like, there's no more running. Like, you'll run until it catches you, but like, your thing will always be your thing. It will never, you can move and it will move with you. Um,
Like, I think that's so important to repeat though, because whether or not your thing is the drinking part, if you avoid, because it's not the drinking, it's not
No.
necessarily the drinking, it's the emotions. You have a problem handling the emotional overwhelm, right? And yours was out of control.
Yep.
4 kids, the troubled marriage, that's a lot. So, but it's the same, you guys, as you're looking at your healing journey, as you're looking at your divorce or your separation or your marriage, if you don't do the work
Mhm.
to just sit with the feelings, have a therapist, have a support system. I don't want you to do anything that you are worried that is going to be too much for you. You deserve to be supported in that, but you've got to look at it or it continues to haunt you. I look at the story of people who don't do the work after infidelity
Mhm.
and they do it again, and they do it
Yep.
again, and they do it again because that was their coping mechanism to fill the void.
That's right.
Alcohol might be your coping mechanism. Smoking pot might be your coping mechanism. Even just staying so busy that
Yeah.
you don't have to sit at home with a relationship that's not fulfilling.
Busyness, shopping, traveling,
Yeah.
overscheduling, being overcommitted to your kids' things, being the martyr mom.
Yeah.
Those are all ways to avoid what's really going on. And I promise you, when you're in jail, you got to look at what's really going on. Um, so my parents bailed me out, and I that was the most awkward, like, 4-hour car ride home in the back of my parents' car in my whole life at age 34. Oh my god. And, I looked up rehabs, and I went to rehab, and we hired a full-time nanny, and she moved into my home, and she became my kid's parent, and, my husband continued working. I moved away for 2 months. Um, I It wasn't like, "Do I wanna go?" It was, "This is the only option for me." Um, and it became so apparent that I just needed to learn how to take care of myself again, because when you cannot take care of yourself, you cannot take care of the people that you love, and you cannot show up the way that you want to impact the world that you're meant to. You just can't do it when you're pouring from an empty cup. So I went to rehab. It was the hardest work I've ever done. I learned so much. I changed so much. My ex-husband came out for a handful of sessions. We looked at it, right? Like, I got to look at my life, and I had people supporting me with in every aspect. It was like, here's your bedtime. This is your nutrition plan. You have no sugar, no caffeine. This is your exercise plan, your therapy, your spirituality, your meditation schedule, your walks, your follow-up plan, your community service, this was, but I got to become recovery. Like, I got to live recovery. I got to be Kristi without being a mom, without being a wife, without being the caretaker, without being just carrying a mental load. I didn't have one in rehab.
Because the healing is so much work. The recovery is a full-time job in itself. The worry, the mind, the anxiety, it's exhausting to do that heavy lifting.
Yeah, and I needed that much time. I'd been a really good drinker for a long time. I'd been avoiding for a long time, and then it's like, "Oh, no. Wait. Okay, so now that I'm sober, okay, the fog is lifting, Erica." And I'm like, "Uh-oh, Christy's gonna go home to a shit show." Like, "Uh-oh." This is not like I'm gonna get I kinda thought, "Okay, if the drinking is the problem in my marriage, I'll get sober and things will be fine." Literally, this is what I thought. And that's not how it went. It was like I got sober and I was able to see clearly,
Yeah.
and then I felt differently than I had previously. And I didn't see the same path that I had before. And I didn't see myself being able to maintain healing and recovery in the space that I was in. So when I moved home, I was home for 2 weeks and then I moved out.
You guys, Kristi and I had such a fantastic conversation that it went well over an hour, which means this is going to be a two-part chat with the Mocktail Mommy. Come back tomorrow when we drop the second half of our conversation, and you can find out how Kristi continued to move through her own personal transformation. And that's it. Another great episode of the Crazy Ex-Wives Club, a podcast for women learning how to heal from their divorce. Tune in next week for more advice and tips to help you figure out life after divorce. And until then, give yourself grace, do the best you can, and know that this is all part of the process.